Hey, Jonathan. You there? Oh. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Do you see me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
How are you today? How's everything?
Good.
Are you guys getting busy up on the mountain?
You know, you're really busy trying to just get everything ready. We'll open hopefully next week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I like Jones in to go skiing a little bit.
This Forest Service thing kind of put a damper in it.
Oh,
Because they closed the Arapahoe. We're a Arapahoe forest, so we'll see what happens. Right now, because we have a special use permit, we get to be there at work all the time, but I don't know if that's going to let us open it to the public.
it's just like one thing after another.
Oh, I know it is, isn't it? Okay, is this, oh. I'm not ready for it yet, that's for sure.
I like your mug.
Oh, look, Minnesota, oofda.
That's great.
Yeah.
My mom's family is all from Minnesota too.
Minneapolis Airport is a great place to shop.
Oh yeah, I love that airport.
Yeah, I do too. And you go into the gift shops and that's where you find this little stuff like this. And then one year they have the Minnesota hot dish cookbook.
Ooh, like different
Yeah.
kinds.
Yeah. Cause hot dish is so Midwestern
Yeah.
and especially Minnesota, everybody makes a hot dish. You either call it hot dish or casserole.
I love
And
fish.
yeah, it's kind of funny because I got one for my son then for Christmas one year. Minnesota hot dish. Here comes Kate.
Oh, Barb's here now too.
This should go pretty simple. Everything was pretty clear. Hi, Barb.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Good.
We've had quite a day. Someone is trying to develop the property up on Wall Street.
Oh, that one that was for sale, the big one?
We are live streaming, just so you know, this is live right now.
Okay.
Just to make sure everybody's
Yeah. It's 1614 Wall Street. It's where a house burned down.
Oh, okay.
So
1614 Wall Street.
My thing looks so dark.
I've never tried doing this on my iPad.
I do it just because it's easier. You can move it around a little bit more. I don't know why mine says Cynthia's iPad though.
I think you can change that.
Yeah, I think I can. I probably should look at that. It's just quick and easy. It never disconnects when I'm on my iPad, it seems.
Yeah, are you totally on the iOS system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, I was gonna, I've got an Apple Watch, I've got an iPhone, I have an iPad, and I really wanted like a MacBook, but it doesn't work with the city system.
Oh. Wow.
And I even had to upgrade my computer because I was not on Windows 10.
Yours, if anything, you lose, hey, Kate, a connection once in a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, Kate.
Your audio.
I need it because other meetings we don't have it on for everybody, but I guess we're gonna do one of those.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Don't say anything under your breath, right? How's everybody doing?
Good.
What's going on with Loveland? I heard that you guys are, obviously with the forest and stuff, you guys are on delay.
We're under a special use permit, so it doesn't apply to us. So we're up there. We're at work, the thing we can't do is let other guests up there, uphill access, hiking, anything like that. But as far as the ski area goes, the employees.
You guys are able
and
to work.
everybody's there. Now, when it comes to trying to open, we're not quite sure where we're at with that, but that's later next week. And I think there's moisture coming in and we're making snow. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
I'll keep
different.
my fingers crossed, man. I would be nice to get 5 feet of snow.
I hate, I've never in 38 years have ever seen them do this. Never.
Nope.
Where,
Me neither.
but I tell you what, it's probably been the warmest summer that I ever remember up at Loveland. I mean, where
It's been the
it
warmest
is,
summer
you
around
walk
the
out,
world.
yeah, you walk outside and it's just warm. It's been very pleasant, but very, very dry. Even those monsoons never came through and really got us this year.
Yeah, the Roaring Fork Valley.
No, they didn't do a whole lot.
dry.
Hi, Chuck.
Good afternoon or good.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone. This is
Hi,
teacher.
Hello, what you?
Mm.
Oh. So we're doing 2 public meetings, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Diane, are you on there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. 2 public hearings.
2 public, yeah.
Cindy,
Huh?
the short-term rental agreement discussion, is that just having a presentation about what we have already talked about?
It's just a work session, I think, for Nina to go over it because they met with council and had, that group work session. I think you were gone or something for that one last week, 2 weeks
No,
ago.
This is different.
Yeah, I was.
Just to
Yeah.
update,
Oh, no,
where
that's
you guys were
right.
last time in
That's
April,
right.
in
Yeah.
March, where we were kind of like picking up where we were last were in March.
Yep.
And basically seeing if you guys feel the same way about those amendments, and then we can move forward with it. We just had that gap because of COVID.
This is the stuff that we asked you to put into the, okay,
Yeah.
that I was there for that one. Okay, cool.
Yeah, March.
changes. The changes and to put more teeth into it for the city.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
March seems like a long time ago, huh?
It seems like 10 years ago or something. I can't even,
I've
explain.
aged 10
March
years
when
in
we-
this last 4 months.
Yeah.
Was it March when we did that?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I had to look
Was?
back. I had to like do digging, and then it came back to me once I saw it.
Wow, March?
And we had a few meetings before that too. So it was kind of like ready to really be done right then. It's just, we're kind of picking up and looking at the changes, but you're right. The reasons were for the enforcement and better teeth and stuff and different things we'll go over.
Did you get COVID?
Yes, I was very sick about 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess not very sick compared to other people, but for me, it was the sickest I've ever been. It was so it's been a blur, since that month was like a blur.
So do you have any side effects?
Yeah, I can't feel my left foot.
Oh, my God.
And probably
Really?
the taste and smell, because my appetite and stomach is still a little off.
Wow.
Did you lose your sense of smell?
Yeah, and taste.
Oh, my.
Did your husband get it too?
He probably had it because he had like a cough in a throat, when we lived together, but he didn't have any other symptoms. And I wasn't cleaning when I felt sick, by the way. I wasn't cleaning my services or whatever they were saying at the time.
I heard.
Yeah, it got 6:01.
Oh, do we?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I
Do we
can
have
see Cindy right in her dining room here, and I'm in my dining room. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Mary Jane. Do we have enough people? The screen, that's the one thing bad about the iPads is you only can show 9 people.
Should be able to tell you've got 13 participants, and they are, as
Okay,
far as how many are on the planning, it's
Chuck,
it's 4 of us.
Uchi. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not gonna speak for Uchi, but I don't think she wants to, make a vote on, well, it doesn't matter. We're not voting on the stuff that concerns her, so she's good.
Well,
I think you're referring to the work session part.
Right, yeah, sorry, honey.
yeah,
you know.
we're not voting on that, so
But
she's good.
I think I still am going to recuse myself from the conversation, just to make sure everything is very transparent. Is that cool with you guys?
I don't think
really
it,
want me to weigh in on everything, but
I don't think it's necessary. It's a work session. I
Well, and
mean,
not only that, but Uchi, I think you
Yeah.
were part of the conversation that advised on a lot of this stuff, so you've already kind of weighed in on it.
yeah,
I did, yeah,
think we're
but
just
I
going
wasn't
over
a
with Nina, but-
voting member, so, I don't know. I think now it's better that I don't.
And it's up to her if she's, I agree that it's not necessary, but if I were her, maybe I would do the same thing. Like, it's up to her that she wants to remove herself to protect herself and also her credibility with, not that you don't have credibility, Ursula, but you know what I'm saying? Her credibility moving forward with other topics. I mean, it's certainly up to her in this situation, especially since there's enough other people, so.
who's the phone number? Do,
907-2613.
yeah. Because we don't have enough people.
That might be Rachel.
Yeah, that's Rachel.
Oh, is it Rachel?
I'll merge her thing with her name.
Hello, can you hear us? Cindy, hello?
So Rachel basically says, I don't have a mic on this computer, so I'm on the phone too.
That works. We can hear you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's Zuri and I here.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. But Diane, we still need somebody, right?
So you got 3. You need 3 for a quorum.
Oh, okay, so we can start.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
In that case, maybe Ursula will want to participate later.
What?
I was making a joke. In that case, maybe Ursula will want to participate in the work session, but we'll see what she wants.
Yeah, I don't.
Should we not be on this part?
Oh, no, Rachel, you're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can just
later,
listen.
right?
We'll talk later.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start. This is the October 21st, 2020 regular meeting of the Idaho Springs Planning Commission. Can we do a roll call,
Cindy
Diane?
Olson,
Here?
Kate Collier,
Here.
Don Reimer, Chuck Howard,
Here,
Ursula Kruzaligi. Ursula, you're on mute.
Sorry. Here.
Jordan Hudson, Tracy Stokes.
Where the heck is everybody? Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so there are 2 public hearings to be held tonight. And then, okay, so 2 public hearings. One is on the Argo Lower Landing minor subdivision, and the second one is Cabins, the LLC annexations 1, 2, and 3, and rezoning. Right now it is, what time is it? 6:06 p.m. and we'll open the first public meeting and we'll start with staff report.
Okay, are you gonna do the minutes?
Oh, yes. Well, we can do it at the end since we
Okay.
opened the.
Okay, perfect, okay.
Yep.
So you have in your packet, a short, concise memo, which will serve you well down the road. So the Argo, so per your regulations, so a minor subdivision to meet the requirements, no public improvements are required, and it needs to be, you're not creating more than 5 lots. So through this process, the first thing is they submit their information, then the planner has to deem it complete, which I did. And in this case, because it was only a minor subdivision, the referrals went to Excel and CenturyLink as well as the school district. The minor plat, one of the things we've started doing is having these development review committee meetings because the projects are getting a little bit more complicated, and we think it's better for the applicant. And in particularly Argo said, guys, can we get one set of comments from you? So what we did is Andy, myself, Tracy, the city engineer, John Bordoni and Carmen Berry all had a meeting to review our comments on the plat. And then what we did, and Brian, thank you, Brian McFarland, for sort of asking for this. I provided both written text on what needed to be amended, and then in your packets, you will see that Tracy went ahead and redlined the plat. And so that makes it easier for their surveyor to correct things. So the findings are as follows. The minor subdivision satisfies all requirements of Article 9 minor subdivision. We have asked for the technical corrections to the plat to be updated prior to recordation. And so again, those are all those red marks. And then along with this plat, there are required access easements, emergency access easements, a public land dedication, and even the 30-foot easement for the gondola. One of the things we've asked for on the plat that will make everybody else's life easier as we move forward is because this plat only looks at the lower landing and not the upper landing. So you sort of have the plat for the lower landing, and then you've got all this stuff going on above that. So we have asked for a key on the plat just to make it easier over time for people to reference all of these easements and dedications. The one thing that's a little bit different about this plat, but Carmen was pretty good at writing the language. So currently, Riverside Drive is city right-of-way. Because of the Greenway Trail and future development of Argo, no one is quite sure where Riverside Drive and the trail will end up. So one of the plat notes is that Riverside Drive will become a 20-foot public access and utility easement subject to the following plat note. Portion of Riverside Drive temporarily vacated in association with this plat is reflected in Idaho Springs ordinance number, and it will get a number in accordance with, and then she cites that portion of statute, which is actually vacation of right-of-way. City of Idaho Springs reserves into itself and the public, and the owner does consent and acknowledge direct execution of the dedication certification, all existing rights of way of the public and the city to continue to use the 20-foot wide public access easement and utility easement as public right-of-way. The owner and city both intend for new alignment of Riverside Drive within this plat area to be dedicated by future plat. So the city will temporarily be vacating the right-of-way until a final alignment is determined by both the applicant and the city. So that vacation will occur once this is approved. We'll come back in, and this will go, vacations of right-of-way only go to city council. So that will be going to city council. Next, the city also received a letter from the Colorado Geological Survey regarding this plat, and the recommendation from Colorado Geological Survey shall apply at the time of building permit review and shall be added to the building plans. But the Colorado Geological Survey is okay moving this plat forward with the understanding that the recommendations from CGS, which really reflect the applicant's own geotech engineer will be added somehow to the building permit plans. So it's pretty straightforward. We did get a referral from Excel, and again, they just want to make sure, you know, they've got stuff there. They want to make sure that all of their stuff is in easements. But with the corrections that the Development Review Committee made on the plat, we recommend approval. And again, you're approving to City Council. Questions?
Well, let's go to the applicant and then we'll see if there's any questions. So who's going to present for the applicant? Mary Jane or
We don't have
Brian?
much to present, Brian. Brian, why don't you
No,
go
we're-
ahead?
we're- Yeah,
It's
hi, Mary
pretty
Jane.
straightforward.
And Cindy and planning commissioners, thank you all for hearing us tonight. We're just here to answer questions. I mean, I think we're, as Barb said, just going through the process of creating this plat and correcting a lot of the historical, you know, easements. For example, there's a Colorado Southern Railroad easement that still exists out there that we're vacating. The Riverside Drive easement kind of runs up through our site, and now we're realigning that to what's actually constructed today. So, and we're creating some new lots as well that the cable car company will be buying from Argo Holdings. So I think it's fairly straightforward. As Barb mentioned in our staff report, there are some technical matters that we're working through with staff and our surveyor to correct and move forward here. But I don't know that we have a presentation tonight. I think we're just here to answer questions. I think it's long overdue that this site is platted, and we're excited to be having it platted and getting this thing done.
And I just got something from Weston saying he'll have the corrected plat to me tonight.
And Weston would have had it too earlier, but he's up on the site surveying for our construction, which starts on Monday. So he's
Right.
he's been
Right.
juggling things and staying busy as he always does.
He said when he gets back into the office.
Exactly.
And I've got to say that this must be the 10th time or something we've been in front of Planning Commission. You guys must be getting tired of seeing us, but this all is important. We're making it happen.
Okay, and can I note for the record, Diane, that Don Reimer joined at 6:08 PM?
Got it. Got it.
Okay,
606.
6:07.
okay. Jonathan, Diane, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so let's open it up for questions. Nobody has any questions? Gosh.
We were very thorough. And we worked
We
well.
tried
with
to be
Margo.
thorough.
Okay, with
We
that, then
gave poor Travis a break tonight.
we'll close the public hearing and it is 6:15, right? And then we'll ask for a motion. Who's out there? We don't have a motion from anybody? Who's on there? Whoops.
I'll find it. Let's see.
It's on the bottom of the staff report.
Cindy, I'll make a motion to approve the Argo Lower Landing minor subdivision.
That's it.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call.
Cindy Olson,
Yes.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Don Reimer,
Yes,
Chuck Howard,
yes.
Ursula Cruz-Leggy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Argo.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Another
listeners.
step on the way. Thank you, guys.
Well, good night. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Okay, do we have Rachel and Suri on?
Yeah, I believe Rachel is on.
Rachel?
She just said, I don't, she needs to
Yeah.
call back.
Okay, should we give it a minute then?
She's seen my staff report and we've been talking, so it's up to you. Cindy.
Okay, so we'll open the second public hearing at 6:17 PM. And it's on the Cabins LLC annexation 1, 2, and 3 and rezoning. And let's start with the staff report.
Okay, so what this is called the Cabins. Oh, hi, Rachel. Okay, this is called the Cabins LLC, and it's the annexation. So the contiguity for this annexation is achieved through the wastewater treatment plant. So the property is approximately 9.33 acres in Clear Creek County. And it's a portion of what's called the Gold Egg Placer. So the actual address is 3303 Colorado 103. And so the property is connected to the Blackstone River Ranch. So the property that Rachel wants to annex contains 11 vintage natural stone cabins, and I included a picture in my staff report. And most of these were built in the early 1900s. And again, like many places outside the Denver area, these were intended as summer cabins. There's also one apartment building consisting of 5 units. And the goal of the cabins annexation and rezone is to create a small upscale resort retreat for local Coloradoans and visitors to the area, but it also is a complementary use to her wedding venue. So, so what I've done, and I'll go through this quickly, basically outline compliance with the Idaho Springs Code. So the feasibility of annexing the property exists. So they have 1/6 contiguity, again, through the water district facility. So one of the cabins and the 5-unit apartment building still are on wells. And so, but the remaining 10 cabins already receive municipal water through water taps from Idaho Springs, and they won't require additional water. We did run this through, thank you, Andy, the city's water rights attorney, and he determined that the water rights comply with the code requirement. So there's also a sewer line that's currently being installed on the property. And once that main sewer line is installed, each building and cabin will be connected to the main sewer line. And then the appropriate fees will be paid once the property is annexed into the city. So there still needs to be an annexation agreement, but that occurs, that's a next step. So so they're asking for to be zoned C3. The Blackstone Rivers Ranch is currently also C3, so we're not talking about spot zoning or anything like that. And I think what's really nice about this project is, that it really helps support a viable, wonderful business in Idaho Springs that has struggled a lot, obviously, because of COVID. But I think, from staff's perspective, I think it's going to provide a range of lodging options on that property. It also supports the goal of preserving water quality by requiring the antiquated but grandfathered septic systems to tie into sewer. It complies with the desire of the city, again, in the comp plan, to develop this area for tourism and hospitality uses, including RV parks, motels, campgrounds, that respect and maintain the appearance of the surrounding mountain residential character. Again, it's providing additional lodging options. And perhaps down the road, but not on the table at this time, there may be a possibility for a future hotel. But And then the other thing, and I won't go through this, the other finding we need to make is that it complies with the 3-mile plan. So I go into detail about how it complies with the 3-mile plan. In terms of sources of revenue from the property, again, the city's going to benefit from increased sales tax and the tourism-related economic activity, in addition to, obviously, the property tax. The other thing that's required when you go through this, so the property is currently zoned Mountain Residential Single Family, which is MR1. And staff finds that this is an appropriate designation because Blackstone Rivers Ranch is also zoned C3. The C3 zone designation allows the cabins to provide a broader range of lodging options. It also allows the adaptive reuse of historic cabins on the site, and the designation is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So we did refer this out to the referral list, and everybody was sort of late, but I did have, and Rachel's aware of this, some back and forth with CDOT and their access manager about the need for an access permit. And what I explained to Marilyn, and she's okay with this, at this point in time, all that Rachel is doing is annexing and rezoning. There's not development activity that would require Rachel to apply for an access permit at this point in time. And I wanted Rachel to understand that. And in particular, I really wanted CDOT to understand that. If Rachel comes back in, for a change of use or whatever, or does maybe a minor subdivision, that will be referred back to the referral agencies. And I told Marilyn she would have another chance to comment on this. Fred at the county sent me an email saying, wow, Idaho Springs is getting really busy on these annexations. But he has not provided comments. Maybe he'll have comments before City Council, because this will roll to City Council, I believe, on Monday. So staff recommendation is basically that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the annexation to City Council of the affected parcels, and also recommend approval of the zoning to City Council. And just for your information, do you guys have your packets open? Do you want me to share my screen just so you can see the property? Are you good?
I have mine here, so I would think everybody's looked at them.
Okay. So again, no changes, but I think it's sort of exciting to have these old historic cabins in the city, and I think it's a good reuse of some really cool historic cabins.
Okay, so let's move on to the applicant. Rachel and Surrey, do you want to do a presentation? Are they on mute?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. The property, as Barb mentioned, is historic to Idaho Springs. The Cole family built them by hand back in the early 1900s. We don't have exact dates for the cabins, but initially they were built on the other side of the highway from where they exist today. When the CDOT came through and decided that they wanted to relocate Highway 103, the Cole family was required to pick up every single cabin and move it to the other side of the highway, which they did by hand. Pretty incredible. It was truly a feat back then without the equipment we have now. We have since purchased the property. It was not an easy purchase to make happen for all involved. there was a lot of emotion from the previous sellers, and it was just sheer grit that got us through it. But we're happy to have them. The history is pretty incredible. The cabins are just adorable, and we have a mix now of short-term renters and long-term renters. We are renting several of the cabins now through Clear Creek County's short-term rental permit program. And they've just been amazing. Pretty much all of our guests send us messages asking what they should do while they're in Idaho Springs. Last year, the inquiries were from about 50% Coloradans or states surrounding Colorado. This year, and the other 50% were national and international. This year, we have about 80% clients who are from Colorado and 20% from out of state. So we are really attracting Coloradans who want staycations right now, who are trapped in their homes and looking for a safe way to wait out COVID. The cabins are right on the creek. Most of them have direct creek frontage. We have offered them to our couples at Blackstone Rivers Ranch first to provide them with a really great lodging option in town. One of the reasons that people do not book our venue is a complaint that there's just not enough lodging, quality lodging in Idaho Springs, and that, you know, most of our couples are fine for them and their friends to stay. But when they talk about their parents and grandparents, there's just not enough in Idaho Springs. So we are really hoping to fill a void for high-end lodging in Idaho Springs. There are definitely Airbnbs located throughout the city and county that fill that void, but there's not really a resort that exists yet. Chateau Chamonix in Georgetown is probably the closest thing that will offer our same quality of lodging. And a lot of our couples say Georgetown is just too far away. So we're reserving the cabins for them initially up until 6 months out from their weddings, and then we release them to the general public. And they've just been incredibly well received. I think like most businesses in the county, we really have a challenge with quality employees that are reliable and want to stick around. So the cleaning aspect of it has been a real challenge, but we're super excited. We believe that we're going to create an enormous tax base for the city of Idaho Springs. All of the septic systems are incredibly antiquated. They are grandfathered in with Clear Creek County. So if we don't annex and we stay in Clear Creek County, we can certainly stay on the same septic systems and maintain them. But for many of them, there is no known year built. So as Zuri and I are stewards of the land, it's important to us to make this change. And really, we would like to be done with all of the antiquated septic systems. We don't have to, but we think it's a benefit, a huge benefit for both the city, county, and ourselves to make this change. We're looking forward to getting the last two structures off of wells. It is free water, but of course, we understand the city's strong need to get everybody on taps, and we went through that with Blackstone in 2013 through 16. So we understand that directive, and we're on board. We do have one issue that we would like addressed, which is the city of Idaho Springs, the municipalities installed both their sewer and water lines on our property without proper easement. And they did that before we owned it. We were not part of it. But we we do feel like that this is the proper time to resolve that issue. It's in nobody's best interest to have some random utility lines floating out there without proper easement. So that's one item we look forward to being addressed. And we look forward to really introducing this beautiful mini resort retreat to Idaho Springs and bringing more business to the city for sure.
Thank you. Does the commissioners, oh no, do we have anybody for public comment? Jonathan or Diane? No?
None.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners to the applicant or Barb?
No, but I just want to, as I understand things, and Andy, please correct me if I'm wrong. The cabins is already being used as short-term rentals as well as long-term. And the way in which this facility is being classified, if I'm incorrect, please correct me. My understanding is because this is now C3 zoning, the short-term rentals that she has are not considered short-term rentals per the STR ordinance, but rather a lodging facility. Andy, is that your understanding?
They're not in, right now, they're not in the city, so they're complying with county.
Right, but when they come in,
But
so under C3,
Right.
they are allowed to do lodging, so it's not one person, renting something out. They're providing multiple facilities for.
Well, wouldn't they fall under a different situation, Barb, simply because they are more resort-like than a house?
Yes,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So.
Okay, thanks.
So they are really, they're really they're a lodging function. And I do want everybody to also understand, because this may be that we are opening this gate, and I've talked to Rachel about this. They could also do, under C3 zoning, they could also do camping and they could do RVs. So again, that comes with that zone designation, which again is the same thing that Blackstone River Ranch is already zoned.
okay, I was going to ask the same question. I mean, using the term short-term rentals would mean that they would have to fall under the city's
I
applicant,
see it as
not the
hotel,
county.
hotel, and I'm looking at the code right now, hotel and
Okay.
motel, a commercial building designed to be rented, occupied by transient purposes for sleeping for guests, may contain certain kitchen facilities. So as long as I follow that hotel motel, that's the definition in our code. And I've just started looking at this now, so I haven't, I assume that's allowed in the C3 without any restrictions. But yeah, a hotel or motel, it looks like it falls into that definition.
Yeah, the one, this is Rachel speaking. The one main item, and I started working on this project with Alan before he left, and then Barb picked up after. The one really crucial difference between how we operate now under the short-term rental permit and what we were told about the hotel motel is that we are absolutely 100% required to have an office where guests can elect to check in. Short-term rentals are for homeowners to basically send a code, a password, let people come and go as they wish. But the main requirement that we would have to adjust to from what we're doing now is having that central office, which we do have on site. It's finished, it's built out. We have full-time staff. So that's not an issue to comply with that whatsoever.
Rachel, if I could ask you, how long do you rent these for?
Was that?
How long do we what? I'm sorry.
How long do you rent them for, the short-term rentals that you currently have?
It really depends. Sometimes it's for one night, sometimes it's for 3 nights. I think the longest guest we've had was maybe about a week in one of the cabins. They're very consistently nightly, like a hotel or motel would be.
Well, under the municipal code, a short-term rental is defined for lodging accommodations of a period less than 30 days. So there's more than just the desk resignation or registration thing.
Yes, all we want to do is rent them short term. We have no interest in renting them long term. The intention of the property is as a hotel motel that we rent nightly, and that is 100% what we want to do with the property. With the amount of money we're spending on sewer, there is no way we could make ends meet renting it monthly.
So just, I'll again read the hotel motel, it's again, renting to be occupied for transient purposes, sleeping for guests, it can have kitchen facilities. And then it says that hotels and motels contain lobbies for guest check-in and on-site maintenance and management. So that's what Alan was referring to. And I think it would help if not only following that definition, but also calling it a hotel or like, not, or at least in our purposes for anything citywide, but that's, the definition is on 21-15 in our code.
Right, so Nina, if I'm following what you're saying, and I think everybody's kind of saying the same thing, is that this is not a short-term rental anymore. What, okay, am I right?
Well, they can, but then they have to follow the city's codes, not the county's codes, and get the permit
Well,
through the
they-
city to
They
do the
would be out
short-term
of the
rental.
city. They would be out of the city's
Oh,
ability
yes.
to do that.
No,
because
because
we-
they're annexing in to the city.
No, but there's a max. There's a max on how many of them are allowed. So right now they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
where,
so-
that's where we gotta change it. If they shouldn't call themselves a short-term rental then. They
Yeah,
should
I
call
would stop
themselves
using that
the
term.
lodging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just
Rachel,
based
I
on our
think
next
just-
conversation, they
just-
wouldn't be able to do it.
Rachel, I think just so not to confuse people, I think, the term in the code, it is just talk about it as a lodging facility. The other thing that Rachel helped me understand, so when we were talking about the RVs and the camping or whatever, I looked at the code online and you've got the table that has little X marks. Well, if you print that table out, it looks differently printed out. And so when you print it out, you will see that RVs and camping grounds are permitted use. So if you
Yeah,
look-
there's a small glitch on the county website that what you see on the screen is completely different from when you print the full document out
on the
for the use of it. But I just want to reiterate, in no way do we want to operate a short-term rental property. Our goal with this property is to create a very natural, refined, understated, elegant, what we're calling a retreat instead of a resort, because there's not people wandering around picking up after you. It's a hotel motel property that we are just marketing as a mini kind of resort. That's the terms we're using for marketing. But legally, it is operating exactly like a motel in town would, where we have an office. Guests come and check in. They stay for anywhere from 1 to, I guess, 29 nights is the max. Not that we would do that long, but we are currently operating legally as a short-term rental with Clear Creek County. That is the only reason why we are using the word short-term rental, because that is how we are legally operating currently.
And can I ask why we brought up camping and RVs?
Nina, the reason why was because when Rachel and I were discussing what is the appropriate zone district for this venue, she was saying, well, we might down the road want to offer camping or whatever. And I looked at the table and there was no X next to camping and RVs. And then I had, then I printed it out, and when I printed it out, the table looks different in print form than in electronic form. So I just wanted to point
But our
that
camp,
out.
okay, so there is going to be camping proposed here?
There could be, I just
There
want
is no camping proposed, but a couple of the cabins have a large enough space. And when I was originally talking with Alan, he mentioned that if we ever had guests and they wanted to pitch a tent, legally that was camping. And so it's important that our zone district support that if the use includes that. So we have no intentions of creating a campground. Our intentions are to rent the cabins nightly, but we don't want to have to police guests if they want to additionally pitch a tent next to a cabin. So that is important that we don't have to police them for that type of use.
So right now in town, I think that the town is prohibitive of any camping in Idaho Springs. So that sounds like a variance on your particular property that needs to be proposed.
Well, she's not.
So if you want to, I mean, with this process, we do not want to go through any variances or anything. If you want to make a note of that or highlight that, then we will. But I mean, we were with many of you as we tried to get Black Swan approved. And so our whole goal with this project is to not go through more brain damage. So if you want to tell us that absolutely not, if a guest books a cabin, they can't pitch a tent, then please tell us that we are definitely not interested in applying for that variance.
To be honest with you,
I just want to be clear, guys, okay? If you look into the code, into the table, which is 21-50-1, allowed uses by zone district, recreation outdoor allows campgrounds and overnight recreational vehicle park in the C3.
In the
C3. That's what I'm saying. But Idaho Springs doesn't allow camping within the city.
And where is that?
There's other parts of the code, 1788 camping restrictions. I'm looking at it now. May not reside or.
So how do the people on just down the road from us who have the trailer parks, how do they get around the fact that they are or are not camping?
Well, I think it's under a designation of RV is kind of technically in that
It's
camping.
C3 zoning. It's C3 zoning.
Yeah.
Are they in city limits?
No. Well, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
But we've then got a conflict in the code that needs to be rectified because the C.
Well, yeah, I mean, and to be very fair, I don't have a problem with them camping out there. I mean, you have someone on site the whole time, but right now we have an overlap, and that's the problem because I don't want anybody in town that has a motel in town to be able to have camping, in tents in their front yard. So where those guys are, it's hidden and it's, kind of goes with the retreat look. But I just wanted to clarify that right now it's not allowed for this annexation.
So I think that's important to clarify because we have had, I think at least, Andy, 3 people that have wanted to do an RV park on a particular piece of property.
That's different. Yeah, Nina.
Yeah, we already know. They did come to us before, Cindy. We know.
Nina's looking at the code, trying to
So what,
decipher.
to first answer Kate's question, what district is the downtown? You're talking about those hotels.
All right.
The specific one that I'm talking about is the east side of town. It's not the historic district.
So what district is that, Barb? Do you know offhand?
Well, it could be the west end of Blair also.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it's zoned. I mean, without seeing the map. I guess Rachel and the applicant needs to be aware that if those restrictions are in place, I mean, you need to look at this code with wanting to be zone C3, that you're within the code that the city has. It's not a matter
Yeah.
of you decide to let them pitch a tent. If we don't allow it in C3, I think that's where Kate was asking, saying.
It is
that
allowed
you
in
could
C3. It's just there's restrictions. It's not prohibited,
Right.
but 1788 has restrictions to look at.
And what's the restrictions?
No person shall camp unless permission of the private property owner, which I would have. Camp means to reside or dwell temporarily. It doesn't
Okay.
includes testimony. Let's see. Grants permission. Unlawful to stay for more than 14 days. So I think that's probably what you guys are thinking of, that you can't camp for more than 14 days on the 1788, which is not what we're talking about here. And can Andy or Jonathan speak in case I'm missing something about the this camping prohibition? I think it's just the restriction for 14 days.
Sure, this is Andy. It's an allowed use in C3.
Right.
So that's clear. I think there's also a quote camping ban in the city. So camping generally is not permitted in the city, but what we're talking here is about an allowed use under our zoning.
Which is a camping ground.
And wouldn't
So
it be-
Andy, you're saying it's an allowed use in C3, but we have a ban that says within city limits.
Well, I think we probably, maybe Nina would need to weigh in on that, or maybe come back to us on that if she's not really commenting on
That's
it
the
now.
7. I don't see a ban unless you guys had a temporary ban, but in the code I see the restriction, which is the 14 days. It doesn't apply to this. So it sounds like for this property, they're okay for short term, let's not use that word,
Don't use-
camping for a day or two. I see 1788, if someone, 17-88 as a camping restriction. If I'm missing something else where there's a ban that I'm not aware of, in the code.
Can I ask a question? Diane, what are the hotels on the east side of town? What are they zoned?
On the east side of town,
Just any one of the hotels, yeah.
that is C2.
So I would assume that in C2, you can't pop a tent in the front yard.
Correct. But
All
that's
right.
just-
So maybe it's not really an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I think that the term in the code, in the table, it says campgrounds, not camping. So in my mind, a campground or an RV park is different than me just pitching a tent in my backyard. So it's more
Well,
than.
But is it
think-
all a campground?
I think like Kate just said, we're trying to compare it to what's allowed in the city, and we're finding that the hotels are zone C2, so
And
it
it's not
doesn't
allowed in
apply.
C2.
Diane, what about the east end or the west end? Specifically
That
thinking,
is-
the
Are we
Blair.
talking like the Blair?
yeah,
That's C1.
okay. So I think we're off track, and I think we're fine. Do you agree, Nina? Because it's a C3. And we
allows
don't have-
campgrounds. The
we
issue
don't
is that
have-
sorry.
I guess what is zone C3 in the city limits?
Oh, you guys want an example? I don't have the zoning map in front of me.
Yeah.
So the campground is different than camping, but it's and if we're talking about the restriction, that's that under 14 days and et cetera. So what Barb's referring to is as allowed in C3 is campgrounds, overnight recreational vehicle park. If we're going to be hyper technical, if you look at the definition of a campground, is this a campground? The definition of campground is an area to be used by occupancy by camping in tents, camp trailers, travel trailers, motorhomes. But if it's already been spoken to and the planning commission doesn't have a problem with this type, what they're explaining, as long as it fits within that 1733 restriction under the 14 days, et cetera, it sounds like that would be acceptable to everybody.
Well, and the definition of campground in the municipal code is an area to be used for transient occupancy by
Yeah, that's what I just read. Yeah, sorry.
tents, trailers, travel trailers, motorhomes.
Right. That's what I was saying. This is a campground. Diane, thank you. We're saying the same thing.
So the key word is the transient. And they're not having transient people, right, Rachel? No. Okay,
No transient people,
no,
just guests
just
who
get,
want
right.
a great experience. That's it.
Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicant or Barb? What, Nina?
No, I'm just, campgrounds are, this might be getting hyper technical, but campgrounds are permitted in C3. It was just a definition we just read. And then otherwise camping is restricted, as we say in that part of the code. So again, it's a question of whether it's a campground, but anyway, that's all.
Well,
Rachel has said
the
that
definition
doesn't
of
want a campground, right? She has said that she might allow people to pitch a tent outside the cabin, and that's all.
That is
And
correct.
what was-
If a guest happens to bring a tent with them, I don't want to prevent them from it, but
You're not
our goal
advertising.
is not to create a campground amongst the cabins. If you guys ever drive by the cabins, you will see they are, well, you have a survey, so you can see, they're little tiny cabins between 300 and 500 square feet sprinkled along this property. That is what we want to rent. We just don't want to police guests while they're on the property renting a cabin.
I get it. I'm
And-
fine with it.
And
I
I
get
want to make the point that the difference between transient camping and what Rachel is proposing is these are paying guests.
So Barb, that goes, I think it sounds like this is a fine thing that the city's gonna say it's fine, but if we're gonna be hyper technical, it is not, campgrounds are allowed in C3. But I think that everyone is okay with the reliance that has been had here, but we don't have to push that point too far because campgrounds are allowed in C3.
Right.
But
What, can I ask, Diane, did you say you had the definition of campground? What is the definition in the city code?
Let me look it up real quick.
Oh yeah, I was reading it as well, but Diane's, yeah, you can see it.
It might be a designated space or something, which would eliminate
An area to be used for transient occupancy by
transient.
camping in tents, camp trailers, travel trailers, motor homes, cabins, or similar movable or temporary sleeping quarters of any kind.
Okay, I guess the way and Nina, correct me, I would think this isn't transient because they're guests of the resort or the retreat place. It's not a transient, meaning they're passing through. Is that a good argument?
So, transient means just like moving around. Since it's an annexation, I'm okay with if you don't feel that this was a reliance that was made and a very tight restriction on this. But if we're going to be hyper technical, it's not a campground. But if we're saying, I would say because it's annexation, you have a little bit of room to say that is allowed, since it's a little bit of a tiny bit of a gray area, even though.
Can a motion be passed with making it a C3 and you can put stipulations on it that the guest camping RV are guests of the lodging facility?
I
don't think we can do it. We can't do an
It's
adjustment
allowed
to
use.
the code,
I mean,
a zoning code.
I think you just need to know.
Can I let Nina?
Campgrounds are, but I see that we have time to, I see, this goes to the city council. We could, it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't need to be a perfect motion. If you're going to say that, then we can work out the details. Because let's see.
I have a question really quick. It seems like there's a concern about homeless camping like is happening in cities on this property, and there's some misunderstanding between a property that allows camping as a business versus that there's some right to allow like homeless tent camping on the property or something? Is that what I'm sensing is the confusion or the issue here?
Yeah, Rachel,
No,
I
it doesn't
think-
matter what people want or they don't want. We're talking about zoning. There's either things that are as of right or not. But I understand what the planning commission is asking, how to make this move forward with a motion. If you're going to go that route, I would say that if everyone's on the same page, make some kind of motion to recommend to city council, and we'll work out the specifics as it relates to the nitty gritty. Because because we're annexing it, I feel like there is that a little bit of more flexibility if we want to have that caveat or condition that the guests of the cabins, can.
Right.
can't for that
Okay.
night.
Kind of the direction I was going. Andy, you had something.
Yeah, so Nina, could this be looked at a little bit differently in that a campground is an allowed use in C3? We've had some discussions about what this will be called, what the use will be called of the cabins. And I think where we are is that it will be a motel, hotel type use.
Right.
Could that approved use also include designating it as a campground? And then I'm just thinking this
Yeah.
through, and then
Right.
there's not a problem, I wouldn't think, if it's allowed use and you have a guest who wants to put up a tent, it's if that's already designated as a campground as well as a hotel, motel, resort, would that be a way to handle it? And then you're not talking about camping generally, you're talking about a designated use as part of a business.
If that's the way you would prefer, that sounds like it might open up more can of worms, but I think that's a good way to.
Okay.
But I think, Sandy, to your point, I agree. It's just the interpretation. If we're going to interpret this as a business, that's where that's going to happen. I think an argument can be made that this, especially since it is a type of use that's in that zone district. So I don't think we need to officially say this is a campground because that might do more than we want to do. I think maybe it could just be, to your point and to Barb's point, the general interpretation of looking at the zoning code and it not being, what's allowed, what they're going to be doing.
I mean, she
So
can
do you-
basically call the entire annexation a campground with cabins. But back to the definition that Diane read, so I think she's fine.
It sounds like you guys can come to an agreement on the wording when presented to council, right?
If at all, yeah. I
Yeah,
think so.
okay, so let's move forward. It sounds like that can be worked out. Do we have any other questions for the applicant or for Barb? Okay, with that, let's close the public hearing and it's 7 p.m. And then we lost Kate. Where'd Kate go? Okay, and then I'll ask for a motion.
Sure.
Diane, you want two separate motions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the first motion, can I get a motion for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do, Kate recommends that the planning commission recommend approval to annexation 9.33 acres to the city council of the parcels for Blackstone Ranch and the cabins.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Cindy Olson,
Yes.
Kate Collier,
Yes,
John Reimer,
Yes.
Chuck Howard,
Yes.
Ursula Kruzaligi.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Now the second motion.
I move to recommend to the
This-
planning, this is Kate again, sorry. I move to recommend to city council approval to the zone, the property to C3 for Blackstone Ranch and its cabins.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Cindy Olson,
Yes.
Kate Collier,
Yes,
John Reimer,
Yes.
Chuck Howard,
Yes.
Ursula Kruzaligi.
Yes.
Okay, that completes that. Thank you, Rachel and Zuri. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Let's go back to the agenda item on a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
August 5th.
August 5th. Second,
I'll I'll second second it.
it. You don't need a roll call on this, do you?
It can be a voice vote.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays?
Aye, aye.
Motion passes. Okay, with that, any other business? If that, will adjourn the meeting to our work session. And it is 7:03. Okay, going to the work session. Nina, this is kind of your little project here. Let's have you take charge and
Sorry, before
go
you start,
forward.
should
Yes,
I not even be here if I'm gonna recuse myself from this?
You
Really
can be president.
I really don't, yeah, I see the problem. I mean, this was all discussed back in March, and these were the changes we had requested. If you want to sit and listen and not have any comments, I'm fine with that. It's up to you.
Sure, I'll
I
do
think
that.
your input is valuable.
Oh, thank you. I just wanna, make sure it looks very transparent like it is. So,
So Ursula, if you're recusing yourself from the vote and or the discussion, you are able to still be on this Zoom call.
okay, I'll be here and I won't talk.
Because to Cindy's point, there's no absolute bar from you, and also that type of thing is whether you could sit and listen is discretionary, because in my opinion, because it's a public meeting. Yes, you're able to stay here, even if taking that 10 steps further, that you were actually recusing yourself, you actually had that conflict of interest it's a work session, but I understand you're just trying to be hyper aware of everything, but it's never in hardly any cases does this person have to leave the room or leave this room. So thank you, Cindy. I'll start with kind of catching us back to where we are, how we got here. First of all, I didn't, it was a conflict of interest for me, but I did get married at Blackstone Rivers Ranch, more importantly in Idaho Springs. So I know a lot of you I spoke to as I was planning my wedding. It just, it's so exciting to get, just to be part of the community, and my sister-in-law lives there now. So anyway, I love working with all of you. So this is just a reminder, the memo that I put in the packet. So on March 4th, before the world blew up, we were getting into we had a few discussions, maybe a few meetings, a few work sessions about, how do we make this short-term rental code provisions even better, put more teeth, get to the intention of what you wanted to do, which was make sure that it's only utilized for primary residence. You're maintaining the character of your community, but you're also allowing, someone who might live in the city to maybe use part of their home to rent out under these certain restrictions. So we had gone back and forth. You guys, it's probably a blur to you as well, because the world has changed so much. But I think that it was very important to you, and also to Diane as the licensing official, as the clerk. A lot of these were things that she noticed, because she does this every day, and requested that these certain changes be made. So I will go through the ordinance and kind of explain why why do we get there, and then if that's okay, Cindy, as the chair, and then
Go for it.
And then after, maybe if we can go through, I will see how it goes. If it's enough to go through, just explain the changes, and then you guys see if you still agree. But if not, if you feel like that's a little too much, you could hop in, or however Cindy says. So this is the ordinance that would be presented to the city council once you recommended. And again, bold and underline are new language. So we can, I'm actually in the packet myself, scrolling. So the first page is page 20 out of 26. Now we're talking about definitions, and we clarify these definitions because then we're speaking about them later. So the emergency contact person was important for you because if somebody is if you're in a residential neighborhood, you want to make sure that even if the person's away, that they have someone who can respond very quickly within 60 minutes for code violations and complaints. Because why that's important is, again, residential communities, the person next door, you have a problem, you want to be able to contact that person. So we made that clear. And then primary residence, we made this even more difficult, I would say, but not if it really is your primary residence, to prove that. So there's those three, instead of proving two things, we had three. And we said, it's where you spend a majority of your time during the year, driver's license or state identification card, and voter registration or motor vehicle. So we previously had to show two things. Now we're showing three buckets, let's say. And then the third was to show the income tax purposes that's your primary residence. Then the section E, let's see, on page 20 of 26, this is more for, Diane had recommended for, I think, but I don't want to put words in Diane's mouth, but I think this is because we were saying issuances or renewals. So every time someone comes up for either a new license or a renewal, we want to make sure that they have to go through all these specifications. So why that comes in is later when we talk about hearings to revoke or to not renew application. Emergency, let's see. Oh, sworn affidavit. See, we just added signed by the applicant and notarized. That further makes puts more teeth. We spoke about it in March or in January, where in Denver they had someone who signed an application, notarized, sworn statement under penalties of perjury that this is their primary residence, and then the city of Denver found out that it was not. And they were able to put that to the district court, their local district court, and the person was charged with a crime for lying. So that just makes more teeth. Then we went through a lot of parking. I'm still on page, let's see, 21 and 26. The delineated off-street parking on the licensed premise. This came up with a few properties where people were kind of saying, well, there are parkings a few lots down. And we also wanted to make sure, parking is obviously an issue in Idaho Springs. So you guys had added to make sure at least one parking space per bedroom that's available. So if there's 4 bedrooms, you'd want to make sure there's 4 off-street parking so that your streets aren't clogged up with this use. So someone could use a use if they could come to that conclusion.
Nina,
Then,
can I interject really quick?
Yeah, it probably is better to do it like this, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So, I mean, this is actually for the planning commission. Can a person who is wants to be an STR, who might be short one parking spot, rent one, with a contract from a neighbor, or they pay for off-street parking at a neighbor's home and do that? What's your thoughts?
Wow. So somebody who's wanting to do that.
Yes.
Okay, you have a neighborhood that you don't like it. What's your thought on it?
If somebody had an STR, and just so you know, there's very few off-street parking spots in our neighborhood. Doug just made 3 on our property, so we could legally do our house now. But if somebody had an STR and they're like, look, you don't use these, and I'll use a neighbor of ours, Chuck. We all know Chuck. He's got 2 parking spots right in front of my house. If he wanted to rent out his house and didn't have off-street parking, but I was going to do it, I would say, Chuck, I'll pay you for those 2 spots. And, and I mean, but again, that's me personally. I'm not going to rent out my house. I'm just saying, would I have a problem with it? Probably not, as long as that was matching car to bedroom. Does that make any sense? Like, you're not doing people on the floor.
That's opening something else. Go, Nina, you've got something to say.
Well, no, I'm not. I don't want to cut off the conversation. Just to remind you guys that you added that restriction that we have we have enough parking spaces for every bedroom. If we think it's opening up too much of a can of worms to do that, that's a lot of administration. I'm not, you guys can choose that, Kate. I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, but maybe another way is to go back to either 1 or 2 parking spots per home instead of, but I just wanted to remind you that that's added, that's proposed added. Right now we don't have, right now it says a delineated off-street parking plan for guest cars, which provides parking for all users. You guys had wanted to, at the time, increase that to each one per bedroom. So I just wanted
Oh,
to
and
make
be
sure
very
that we're
clear,
not
I'm still very
overcomplicating.
strict on the parking. Yeah, Nina.
Okay, yeah,
still
I'm
very
not trying to
strict.
take that away. I'm just saying if
Yeah.
that's the thing, like where we think, oh, that's a little too complicated, let's do this other thing that's a little more complicated. That's all I'm pointing out. If everyone still feels
Right,
that way with the that's the parking you want, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just pointing it out.
I just wanted to,
There.
it was brought to my attention and I thought it was a provocative question, at least to put out there to you guys.
Well, I almost think we need to address it because it's going to come up. So we need to address it
Someone's thinking about
somewhere.
it, right?
The way
I
the
mean-
current ordinance is written, you guys made it strict that someone could not do that, and
Mhm.
meaning the proposal. So you did address it. Doesn't mean you can't change your mind, but you did address it, saying that people can't do that. They can't rent out someone else's parking on someone else's property. That doesn't mean you can't change right now. But this current ordinance does address it, just in a different way.
Okay, so right now, a
Right now
person.
we added. Let me try to find it. I think I just read it.
I mean, how would you monitor something like that? That would be
Exactly.
I know.
It would be a compliance nightmare.
yeah. Okay, I
So-
think if we're covered on it, let's leave it like that right now, and everybody can think about it. We can go back to it. That way you can continue on.
Okay, but so right now, the part where I found is the part that you guys added were the guest cars on the licensed premises for at least one space per bedroom for rental. So
Yeah.
if you thought other people, other properties could allow for that, you would take away on the licensed premise. So that's just how tight or strict you want that part. So that's in page 21 on subsection H. So then on subsection 3, where this is Diane had recommended, and not just Diane, this is how most clerks' offices realize that the licenses should be a set time, not a year from when they applied. That's another nightmare for staff. So instead of everyone has a different due date, you start resetting it. So we had said May because in March we thought we would implement this. I would say it's probably better to keep this because by the time it passes, that instead of you renew whenever they started, it's just a set time, May 1st, April 30th.
There needs to be an annual renew date.
Right, and that's what most, thank you. And Diane had requested that because that's probably how other licenses work within the city. That's how most licenses work within any city that we work with. So
Right.
that's
Well,
more just.
Let's clarify that date. Is that a good date for the city? You've got other things you're renewing. Is it better on the calendar year when you're doing business licenses and stuff where it's all at the same time instead of jumping
Good
all
question,
over the
yeah.
place?
Diane, what's best date?
Actually, the good time is July 1st.
Okay,
Okay,
so we'll change that.
everyone's good with that? Okay, that was easy. Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you, Cindy, for jumping in on that because we want to make sure the clerk is working for the clerk. So now I'm going to. I added upon renewal on page 22 again because I remember every year we're going to go through this process so that we are making sure everyone's complying. We changed owner agent to emergency contact person. Again, we made that really strict, button that up. And then on page 23 of 26, this is where we go further into that, making sure that emergency contact person is there because if the owner is not available, they have that emergency contact person and it's very clear within 60 minutes to respond and take remedial action. This is important for those of you who felt rightfully so in a residential neighborhood, you want to maintain the residential character. So you want to make sure that there's that person to respond. The business license number shall be on the first line describing on the hosting sites. So this was to make sure that, it's easier if you go on Airbnb or VRBO or any of the websites to see if the person has a license with Idaho Springs for us to comply and to enforce if they have that license number. And then this page 23, this whole thing is additional. That's the attorneys wrote that. We highly recommend that these business licenses are business licenses are looked at as an asset. We need to make sure we have due process before we revoke, suspend. And we felt that the way the code was written before that didn't properly, it wasn't the best, written the best. We want to make sure that we button it up. This is in consultation with Diane and Andy, and we highly recommend this. It's a legal due process thing. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And then penalties. We added penalties to give it more teeth on page 25, subsection L. We say, in addition to anything else that we can, in addition to any other code violations, the way we deal with code violations, it's a fine that will be in the fee schedule. So that's just to, again, button up compliance. And so Diane or Diane, let me know if anything else you want to jump in, and then if anyone has questions.
Actually, I did have a question, and maybe it's in here, Nina, but I'm tired.
No, I know. Gosh, I'm sure.
When this is passed, does it affect current renewals? Like say the whole parking thing, if we keep it or change it, that it must be on your premises, does the any renewal have to have the parking on their premises?
Yes, I do believe so. I know you're probably thinking of that's more of an interpretation question, like a grandfathered use. These are restrictions. They're not, and that's why we have that language for renewal. I do think that's why we're gonna have those renewal applications, to have all that information and make them sure that they check off. I do believe that we have the authority to do that.
Okay.
I have two things. It just came to my attention that, in fact, somebody is doing the lease out on their parking spots. So I don't know how we want to address that, but before we get on that conversation, can we just add a piece of verbiage to G2? And it's the list of things that they have to have prominently listed in the house of, license, contact information, local trash, and how we do all that stuff. But can we have something about fire pits and maybe discourage the use of that at STRs?
We had something in there.
I thought we did too, but it's not. So unless I'm missing it entirely.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Hold on. I know. Remember, we used to have fire pits. A house would be called that. Where do we have that? We had that in let me hold on. I understand what you're saying. Let me just make sure we'll work.
But if it's inside the house, then it means that the people that are renting it know too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, I know what you're saying, that added layer, but I don't know why I don't see where I put
Find it, Nina.
I'm sorry?
I couldn't find it either. So
we did speak about this. So, okay, so the first thing.
The fire pits.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, I do. I'm sorry, Kate. This doesn't answer your primary question, which I'll get to. But on page 25, it says they can't operate an outdoor fire pit or conduct open burning.
Okay, so maybe we just make that mandatory for in the home too.
Yes. So would we want to just specify that, or do we want to? Let's look at these unlawful acts. I don't see anything else. I know it's a very important issue.
So Kate, what you're asking is that they don't use the homeowner's fireplace inside the home also?
No, just the outside, just, I mean, just outside fire pits. I mean, honestly, if I was going to rent my house out, like just say my cabin, I would remove that damn fire pit in a second. There's no way that I'd want somebody who doesn't know what they're doing in the backcountry or in a town, especially now in light of everything that's going on.
Right. So if I could further clarify your point, Clay, because I think I understand it. So in the ordinance at the end, we say we prohibit outdoor burning and fire pits. What Kate is saying, let's add a line to G2 on the list of things that they need to have on that piece of paper within the house that says, reminder, this is prohibited. So I wrote that down if there's a consensus.
I agree with that.
And I hope that we don't have to say that there's no shooting in town as well, but I'm starting to think that just explaining exactly how to behave like a normal human being might be just something that we have to start putting down on paper.
Well, that's
a fire pit is a fire pit is on the property, so that makes more sense than Don't go around treating people, but.
I know, by the way, I'm only half kidding.
No, I know.
So Kate, did you say there is somebody renting out a parking spot?
It appears, yeah, parking
I
spot.
can speak to that.
It appears that somebody is doing that already. We don't know who that is. I just know that, I'm getting this all third hand, just so you guys know as we're speaking. And so just let you know, it's gonna
So
come.
I'll speak to that. I'm not going to speak about a specific person, but I want to again point us to, if you're looking at the packet, sorry, I keep doing this, page 21 and 26. That issue was addressed to us from staff, and that's why on 1H, it says we added on the licensed premises. So a delineated off-street parking plan for guest cars on the licensed premises provides for parking. So the reason why we wrote on the licensed premise is to restrict that situation. That was the last rendition of your, right now, the code is not specific about that. The bold is new language. So it's proposed to say the parking plan should show parking on the licensed premises, which means on the property.
So then for right now, it's going to be okay until we get this passed.
Right.
Okay.
Well, not real. In speaking to the city clerk, her and I don't necessarily agree. It's just we want to make it clear. We don't necessarily agree that's allowed, but we want to make it very, very clear in the code.
Okay. Okay. I think these are great, the changes. I think we've corrected what I've seen. Does anybody else have any? Andy does? You're on mute.
Nina, how, with making the renewal July 1st for everyone, and we now have different renewal dates, do you have, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but what's the best way to transition from multiple different dates to one renewal date on July 1st?
That's a good question. The reason why I think in March we said May is because Diane had said most of them applied at this around the same time. If Diane, if that's still the case, let me know, because then I'll be able to better answer that question. Is it true that most of the applications are now in starting in January or March?
The majority, but there are a few that go later than that.
So what's the majority? Still March?
Yes.
So to answer Andy's question, I would think it's fair to kind of give those people the 3 months more. And there's going to be, this doesn't apply to everybody, and that some people will have to deal with it. Maybe you give them a prorated month or off or something, to your point, Andy. But I think if most people, when this came out, they have that March date, let's say, then if they will extend their license that would otherwise end in March to July and then start over again. Or actually, no, that's probably better. Or I was going to say, or March to the following July, but let's actually just make it all cleaner. If you and Diane agree and everybody agrees, does that make sense? Because then at least you're dealing with the bulk of that issue.
I agree.
And I think that makes sense to me. And Nina, that also provides the advantage of providing notice to the STR owners about some of the changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so
definitely. Definitely. That's a good question. Thank you.
Guys, I don't want to open another can of worms, but just to speak to the parking spot one more time, is here's how it's a feeling. So bear with me. These guys have obviously found a way to, within the rules that we have, comply. And I feel like if everybody would just do this, if everybody would just be compliant, we wouldn't have all these problems and need all these regulations. So I'm wondering if there's a way that the person that I'm speaking to could go to them and say, hey, can you go to the city and tell them what you're doing and tell them the parking spots that you're borrowing and let this be a part of their agreement. I think as long as we know where they are in fact parking the car, that we don't really have to worry about whether they're parking in the street. I think the neighbors are going to be part of our whole parking, what's the word, ordinance, officer. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you guys see what I'm saying is I don't want to punish somebody for finding a way to do it legally.
But let me give you a scenario, Kate, to consider. That if you were to lease a parking space from somebody as a part of your license, and you change your mind and you want that space, then what is their recourse? Are they going to have one on their property, or are they going to be parking in the street?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking to myself. No, absolutely, you're right. If you lose that parking spot, you lose your ability to do the you know, that bedroom. I mean, that would be just yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is just about having, I mean, it doesn't say that at least I didn't think it said, maybe it does say that you have to have 3 at your house. But if you have 3 off-street parking spots and you stay within the 15 allotted STRs in the town, if you want your parking spot back, then you have to, then those guys are kind of SOL. Again,
And we added something that they have to let us know, if they don't let us know that situation changed, that, that's
I
one of
can
the reasons-
guarantee you they're not going to let you know.
No, I know. But where this comes up is probably at renewal, or it is a reason we can technically suspend or revoke a license if we hear about it. So
I would say vast majorities of people would not let you know, but clearly these guys have gone through the process. They know what our rules are and they found a way to abide by them. So that's all I'm saying, is that 99% of the people are probably going to do whatever the hell they want anyway. But here's one person, or I don't even know how many people is involved, trying to do the right thing. And I just, you know, I'm always about like, let's promote the best behavior that we can versus like punishing someone for being innovative.
So then that would be, that's a good, I mean, it's a good policy question for you guys to consider to give us guidance. So if you agree, if the majority of people agree with what Kate is saying, it would be to delete the currently added on the licensed premises for the delineated off-street parking plan. Or you
I
could just
don't know
put-
how, I mean, for Andy and Diane, how would you monitor that? I mean, anybody could say that. I could come in and say, hey, I'm going to borrow my neighbors. I'm leasing them. How do you prove that you're doing that?
You would have to have a piece of paper in between you guys that it's like a contract of any sort of
But
rental
you can
agreement.
you could write something fake up.
I'm not
no one
diminishing
know.
the fact that this is going to be. I'm sorry, Cindy. I'm not by any stretch diminishing that this is going to be a admin nightmare. And I do not honestly believe that there's going to be a ton of people in town that are renting out their off-street parking, just to be fair.
Yeah, I would
So-
agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I mean, and I don't want to undermine what Diane and Andy have to take on every day anyway. So again, I'm just proposing what I'm being asked to bring to planning commission. Okay, guys.
So maybe Diane could speak to, maybe that could help everybody kind of get the context. Diane, can you explain what your opinion is from your being licensed, you know, you're in your position with that situation with the, you know, why it was first recommended to add on the licensed premise versus someone
Hi, everybody.
from another house.
About parking?
Yeah, about we had added that the delineated parking plan must show parking on the property. We added that on the property versus the situation that does exist and that Kate's speaking to, that, you know, renting someone else's or utilizing a spot from somebody else's property. Can you speak to like kind of either both sides or one side of why that, you know, what the implications of that are?
Well, it's not been a problem so far. There is only one licensee that rents somebody else's parking, or that there's an agreement between them.
Right, and do you think is that an issue or?
It hasn't been, but like I was, you know, speaking to Kate earlier, what do you do when somebody wants to take back that space? And you're talking, you know, 15 potential short-term rentals. It would be, I think, a monitoring nightmare. But that's not to say that all 15 would, you know,
do
that. But the
Well,
potential.
I mean, you know, you could actually have a sign that's posted on that. We would know the driveway. I feel like I'm arguing this point to death.
No, but Kate, you're speaking to what already exists. So if Diane is saying that it's not really that big of a deal and you guys don't think it's that big of a deal, we could delete the on the license premise, because what you're speaking to is what already is in the code. It's just if you guys, unless,
You have-
majority
You
feels,
have to have off-street parking for the bedrooms. You're just not saying where they have to be.
right, so, right.
But you
So-
still need to make sure that it's not public parking lots and that it's
Off-street-
in on private property, even if it's not your own.
Let me ask a question. Do we still have in here that they have to present their plan? They
Yes,
have to
that's- yeah.
show their
Yes, let-
plan. So wouldn't it show at that point, oh, I'm going to use my neighbor's?
Right. So
Sure.
right now they can like, let's say if you, right now how it's written in the code that already exists is a delineated off-street parking plan. And I'm looking at page 21, a delineated off-street parking plan for the guest cars, which provides parking for all users of the renter space. You guys wanted to supplement it in two ways. One, you wanted to say one parking space per bedroom available for rental for all users, which it sounds like no one's saying that proposal should be changed. And the second thing is on the licensed premise issue, which if no one is feeling strong about, including the staff, then we can remove that and just have them show a parking plan that provides at least one parking space per bedroom available for rental for all users of the rental space. And off-street parking, this would not include public parking. This is to show that they're providing off-street parking on the private property.
And where I see it becoming a bigger problem is with the one space per bedroom.
Right. Oh, I see.
agree
If
with
you're going to
that.
require more good point, Diane. If you're going to require more parking, then are we getting more of these agreements? But do you all still agree that you do want one parking spot per bedroom? That's another policy question.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I was on the fence with that. I didn't like the one bedroom, a parking spot per bedroom, because I thought it was all users that come there. So if you have two families that come there with two cars, you have two parking spots. If you have three people show up with three cars, you as the renter, the short-term rental needs to make sure that you had parking for three cars.
But that's
And sure,
harder-
they're going to lie. They don't know that, but
Right. So that's why you, to that point, Cindy, that's why you guys wanted a plan to show that, because you're
right.
showing like the worst case scenario. And I'm not trying to steer you guys to be clear on your policy. I just, it sounds like what you're trying to say is why we show a plan. It can't be a plan for every different scenario. It's a plan for the renters. So, however, maybe if someone has a 5-bedroom house and, that's a little restrictive too, maybe for every bedroom up to 3 it's up to you guys. There's different ways to go about it.
And it could be just, one big space that has 3 beds and 3 families show up.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
gross.
I'm almost not liking the bedroom.
Would you say 2? Every house is 2? I don't know.
I mean, if you go back to the other way and they have to show their plan, and if part of their plan is they're using their neighbor's driveway, hey, I don't know if that's hard for the city to say, well, prove to me that you're using your neighbor's driveway.
But that's
Well,
a different
let's-
issue
let's have
because they need to, right now, the way the proposal's written is 1 parking space per bedroom available for rental. So that's a different issue. So first you guys have to decide, are you still going that route, 1 parking spot per bedroom? Because the staff is only looking at this once a year. It's only one plan,
Is Jonathan Kane on the call?
Is who?
Is John Kane on the call?
Yeah,
Okay,
Jonathan's.
so I've got a question, because if the entire town goes to residential only parking, except for obviously the business districts, and you emphatically tell the renters you cannot have anybody on the streets, otherwise they are going to get a ticket. You can have, this might be null and void.
That's a good point.
You have to park on the property. You have to be able to provide parking on the property. If you park in the street, you're gonna get a ticket. It's just the bottom line. John, we need the signs on my side of town, just saying. But we are getting to that point where off-street parking is not gonna be very fun for people. Cindy, we could always come back and look at this once it is complete. The city parking plan is complete, right? But right now, I think it's still good to have off-street parking as the And I think we did it per bedroom so that we could keep people down to 1 car per bedroom.
Well, I think what we can do so we can move on forward on this and get this done is, let's leave it like this, and we get to think, research, and where it can be brought back to planning for approval to move forward to
Public
council.
hearing.
So
We can always
instead of
add, right? We
keep
can
going
always
round
change
and
it.
round, where we each can do our research, talk, and see what is going on with the parking. I don't know, does everybody agree with that? I think everything else, that seems to be what we're hung up on.
Yeah, and then I could make the amendment for the July 1st and the fire pit prohibition, and then put this on one more time for planning commission where it's the public hearing, and then you're proposing it to council. But just to clarify in your minds, like as you go into this, there's 2 issues. There's, do you want to add the restriction that the off-street parking has to be on the person's property? And do you want to add a further restriction that each bedroom rented needs a parking spot? I do see a middle ground between what is there and that is maybe 1 per bedroom up to 3 bedrooms. So, you know, up to 3 parking spaces. I mean, that's just another option. So there's different ways to go about that. I just want to frame the discussion in your minds as you're reviewing this further. Does that make sense, everyone?
Cindy, you're muted.
Oh, yeah.
So how soon are we wanting to do this? I mean, to me, this is pretty final except for that part.
Oh
so-
yeah, I'm gonna fix it today. Well, those 2 changes will take me a little over a minute. So it's up to I guess Andy. I think Andy, who knows the planning commission agendas, and
So put it on the next agenda, available agenda, and then we recommend it to council, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll put it for a public hearing.
Okay. I'm good with that. Is everybody else? Andy's got something.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, if you're ready for it, it could come back to the next regular planning commission meeting, the first Wednesday in November.
As a public hearing, and then just I think it's good that you're talking this through, but now you know the 2 outstanding issue, well, is the parking. It's, are you requiring it on the property, and should you increase per bedroom, 1 car per bedroom, and really think about that, talk around, however you want to do it, but that's the, like, kind of narrow that to know what you're going to, well, obviously it's a public hearing, so you want to think about different things, but kind of frame that thought as you're moving forward. It's good that we're talking it through now, so we know what's left.
Yep.
And
Okay.
obviously you can change anything else, but I'm not trying to stop you from that, but I think we are in a good point right now.
Okay. I think this is great. I think we're close. Is anybody, any other questions, or is it time to say goodnight?
Night.
Good night. All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Nina. Thanks, Barb.
Thanks, everyone. So
Good night,
good seeing you
everybody.
virtually. Bye. Stay safe.
Good seeing you, Nina. Take it easy.
Yeah, nice to see everyone. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.